The massive doors of the Galaxy Council chamber opened with a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the enormous space. Li Wujin walked through those doors like he owned the place, but his steps were calm and measured. He wore a simple black suit that looked plain compared to the colorful robes and shiny armor of the alien delegates around him. Behind him walked Park, so young, carrying a metal briefcase that seemed ordinary, but would soon change everything. The briefcase was locked with codes that only 3 humans in the galaxy knew. The weight of it felt heavy in her hands, not because of what was inside, but because of what it represented. The Galaxy Council chamber was huge, bigger than 10 football fields put together. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds could form up there if the air was right. Delegates from hundreds of different worlds sat in curved rows that went up and up like a giant stadium. Each species had their own section with special seats made for their bodies. The Altari delegates were tall and blue with skin that looked like polished metal. They whispered to each other in voices that sounded like singing wind. Their eyes were large and silver, and they kept staring at the human diplomat like he was some kind of strange animal they had never seen before. The Vorthan delegates looked like giant insects with hard shells and multiple arms. They made clicking sounds with their mouths that other species had learned was their way of laughing. The clicking got louder as Li Wujin walked past them. They thought humans were funny because humans always talked about peace instead of fighting. In the center of the chamber sat the most important aliens, the Council of 5 who made all the big decisions for the galaxy. There was Thys, the big reptile creature who was the current leader. His skin was dark green with golden stripes and his eyes were yellow like a cat's. He was twice as tall as any human and his voice could shake the walls when he spoke. Next to him sat Mordak from the hegemony of Kresh. He looked like a walking rock with arms and legs. His people were known for being tough and never backing down from a fight. His red eyes glowed like fire, and he never smiled at anyone, especially not humans. The third member was Velnari from the Luminari Collective. She was made of what looked like living crystal that changed colors when she moved. Her people were very smart and could solve problems that other species could not even understand. They thought humans were too simple to be really useful. The fourth was Zixthar from the Void Walkers. He was thin and gray with skin that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. His people lived in the dark spaces, between stars and knew secrets that other species could only dream about. They rarely spoke, but when they did, everyone listened. The last member was Glixnora from the Swarm Collective. She looked like a collection of small creatures that moved together, as one. Her people were millions of tiny beings that shared one mind. They could be in many places at once and see everything that happened in their territory. These 5 beings controlled the fate of trillions of lives across the galaxy. They made decisions about war and peace, about trade and exploration, about which species lived and which ones were allowed to die out. They had been meeting for over 1,000 years, and in all that time they had never been surprised by anything. Until today, Li Wujin stopped in the center of the chamber and looked around at all the faces staring at him. Some looked curious, some looked bored, and some looked annoyed that they had to be here for another boring human speech about peace and understanding. For 300 years, humans had been part of the galactic community. For 300 years, they had been the ones who always said, "Wait, let's talk about this. Let's find a peaceful solution. Let's try to understand each other better." Other species had started to think that humans were weak because they never wanted to fight. When the Corvan Empire started attacking peaceful colonies, the other species expected humans to do what they always did: ask for more meetings, more discussions, more chances to talk things out. The Corvans were savage warriors who wore masks made from the skulls of their enemies. They painted their ships with blood and broadcast their victories across the galaxy to scare other species into giving up without a fight. The Corvans had ignored every attempt at peace talks. They had laughed at offers of trade deals. They had destroyed 3 colonies in the past month, killing millions of innocent beings just to show that they could do it. They were getting stronger and bolder with each victory, and no one seemed able to stop them. Council leader Thys stood up, and his massive form cast a shadow over the human diplomat. His voice rumbled through the chamber like distant thunder. "Ambassador Li, your species has always been the voice of peace in our discussions. The Corvan Empire has rejected all attempts at negotiation. They have shown that they understand only violence. What does humanity propose we do now? The chamber became completely silent. Every being in the room focused on the human. Every eye, every sensor, every way of seeing that the different species had was pointed at Li Wu Jin. Everyone expected him to ask for more time for another committee to study the problem, for another chance to send messages. To the Corvins instead, something happened that no one expected. Li Wu Jin smiled. It was not a happy smile or a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made the temperature in the room seem to drop by 10 degrees. It was a smile that said, I know something you do not know, and you are not going to like it when you find out. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device that projected his voice throughout the massive chamber so everyone could hear him clearly. His voice was calm and steady, but there was something underneath it, something that made even the bravest warriors in the room feel uncomfortable. Honored members of the Galaxy Council, he began. For 3 centuries, we have been your friends, your allies, your partners in building a peaceful galaxy. We have shared our medicine, our art, our knowledge, our dreams of a better future for all thinking beings. We have been patient. We have been kind. We have been understanding. He paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with delegates from dozens of different species. We have been merciful. The word hung in the air like a sharp blade. Everyone could feel that something was different about this human. Something was happening that had never happened before, but mercy without strength is not virtue. Li Wu Jin continued. It is weakness, and weakness invites predators. Park. So Young stepped forward and placed the metal briefcase on the floor. She entered the codes and it opened with a soft hiss. Holographic. Displays rose up from inside, showing images that made several delegates gasp in shock and fear. These were not the usual human displays of medical research or cultural exchanges. These were images of war machines beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships that could crack planets, weapons that could burn through any armor, soldiers trained in ways of fighting that would make the Corvin warriors look like children playing games. The peaceful humans, the ones who brought art and music to the galaxy, were showing the Council something that changed everything. They were showing them that humans knew how to make war. The holographic displays filled the center of the Galaxy Council chamber, with images that made even the most experienced warriors feel cold fear in their hearts. Admiral Kim Tae-ho appeared in the display, his military uniform perfect and clean. But his eyes held the look of someone who had seen too much war. His face was like stone carved by wind and rain over many years. Council members. Kim Tae-ho began his voice, carrying the weight of authority that came from commanding forces beyond. Imagination, you have known humanity for 300 years. You have seen us as doctors and teachers, as artists and diplomats, as builders of peace and harmony between the stars. What you have not seen is what we truly are underneath all of that. The holographic images changed, showing massive ships that floated in the darkness between stars. These were not the small exploration vessels or medical ships that humans usually showed to other species. These were warships designed for one purpose, only to destroy anything that threatened innocent life. The ships were enormous, bigger than the largest space stations that most species had ever built. Their hulls were black as the void itself, and covered with weapons that could turn entire moons into dust, energy cannons that could punch through any armor, missile systems that could track targets across entire solar systems, and shields that could withstand the fury of a dying star. We are warriors, Kim Tae-ho continued. But we chose not to. We decided long ago that the galaxy had enough violence, enough death, enough fear. We thought we could show other species that there was a better way to live. Delegate after delegate stared at the displays with growing horror and amazement. The proud Altari, who had always considered themselves the greatest military force in the galaxy, suddenly looked very small. The Vorthans stopped their clicking sounds, and their compound eyes changed color, the way they always did when they were afraid. Hegemony of Kresh Delegate Mordak leaned forward in his rocky chair, his red eyes blazing with anger and something that might have been respect. You have been lying to us, he said, his voice like grinding stone. How long have you been hiding this? From the galaxy, Li Wu Jin stepped forward again, his calm expression never changing. We have hidden nothing, he said. We simply chose not to speak of it. On our home world, we have an old saying, speak softly, and carry a big stick. For 300 years we have spoken very softly indeed, but we have always carried the biggest stick in the galaxy. We just kept it hidden away, hoping we would never need to use it. The displays changed again, showing human soldiers in training. Their movements were like flowing water but deadly as lightning. They moved in ways that seemed impossible, fighting multiple opponents at once, using weapons and techniques that no other species had ever seen. They trained in conditions that would kill most aliens in gravity so strong it would crush bones, in heat that would melt metal, in cold that would freeze blood. Solid Captain Han Min-soo appeared in the holographic display next to the Admiral. His Special Forces uniform was different from the regular military gear. It was designed for stealth and speed. His face was young, but his eyes were old, like someone who had seen too many dark places in the galaxy. We have been watching the Corvan Empire for 5 years. Han Min-soo reported. We know the location of every one of their military bases. We know where their fleets are hiding. We know their supply lines, their command structure, their weaknesses. We have been gathering intelligence and preparing for this day, hoping it would never come. The revelation sent shockwaves through the entire council chamber. Species that had been allies with humans for centuries suddenly wondered what other secrets they might be hiding. The peaceful doctors who had saved millions of lives were also the most dangerous military force anyone had ever imagined. Some delegates began whispering to each other in their own languages, asking the same questions. How long had humans been planning this? Were they always this dangerous? Why had they pretended to be weak for so long? Dr. Song Hye-jin appeared in the display next. Her medical uniform was clean and white, but her expression was grim. She had spent her life saving lives, but now she was helping to plan how to take them. We tried everything, she said. We offered the Corvans medical aid, advanced technology, even planets they could colonize peacefully. They responded by killing our medical teams and broadcasting their deaths across the galaxy. The holographic displays showed recordings of Corvan attacks on human medical stations. Doctors and nurses who had gone to help wounded aliens were tortured and killed just for trying to save lives. The Corvans had made videos of these killings and sent them to every human colony as a warning. Lieutenant Colonel Yoon Ji-hae stood at attention in the display, her combat armor gleaming under the lights. We are not doing this because we want to, she said clearly. We are doing this because someone has to. The Corvans understand only one language, and we are about to speak it fluently. The displays showed more human military capabilities. Weapons that could target individual buildings from orbit without harming anything around them. Soldiers who could move through enemy territory like ghosts, appearing and disappearing without a trace. Ships that could jump between stars faster than any other species thought possible. But it was not just the weapons and soldiers that amazed the council delegates. It was the planning and preparation that had gone into building this military force. Every detail had been thought through, every possible scenario had been planned for. The humans had been preparing for war while preaching peace, and they had done it so well that no one had suspected anything. General Park Dong-won appeared in the final display, his weathered face showing the strain of carrying such a heavy burden. For 3 centuries we have hoped that reason would prevail, he said slowly. We believed that if we showed other species the benefits of peace, they would choose peace over war. We were wrong about some species. The Corvan Empire has shown us that evil exists in the universe. Park Dong-won continued, evil that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be negotiated with, cannot be anything but destroyed. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be more terrifying than those who would destroy it. The council chamber was completely silent now. Every delegate was processing what they had just learned. The gentle humans who had spent centuries healing the sick and teaching the young were also the most advanced military civilization in the known galaxy. They had been hiding in plain sight, building an army that could conquer the entire galaxy if they chose to. Council leader This finally spoke, his voice smaller than before. What are your intentions, he asked. Do you plan to use this military force only against the Corvans, Lee? Wu Jin looked directly at the massive reptilian leader. We have no interest in conquest or domination, he said firmly. We want only what we have always wanted. Peace, safety for innocent beings, the chance for all species to grow and learn together. But if anyone threatens that peace, if anyone chooses to prey on the weak, then they will learn what humans are truly capable of. The revelation was complete. The peaceful diplomats had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, and now everyone had to decide what that meant for the future. The holographic displays in the Galaxy Council chamber changed to show images that made even the strongest warriors feel sick to their stomachs. Commander Choi Hyun-woo appeared in the display, his face grim as he pointed to a map of the outer rim territories. The red marks on the map showed where the Corvan Empire had struck in the past 6 months. Each red mark represented millions of dead civilians. 72 hours ago, Commander Choi began the Corvans destroyed the peaceful haven. Colony 3 million beings from 12 different species lived there. They had farms and schools and hospitals. They were growing food to feed hungry worlds and teaching their children to live together in harmony. The Corvans killed them all. The display showed recordings from the attack, but Li Wujin raised his hand and the worst images were blocked out. Even so, what the council members could see was horrible enough: Corvan warships appearing out of nowhere, firing on defenseless buildings, chasing down fleeing civilians like hunters chasing animals. The Corvans wore their skull masks and painted their ships with the blood of those they killed. They did not do this for resources or territory. Commander Choi continued, his voice steady, but filled with controlled anger. They did this to send a message. They broadcast the entire massacre across all communication channels so that everyone in the galaxy would see what happens to those who resist them. The chamber fell into complete silence. Many of the delegates had family members living on the outer rim colonies. The reality of what the Corvan Empire represented was finally sinking in. This was not a political dispute or a fight over resources. This was pure evil that enjoyed, causing pain and death. The Corvan Empire had been growing stronger for 2 years. They started by attacking small isolated settlements, places that were too far away for help to arrive in time. When no one came to stop them, they grew bolder, attacking larger colonies, taking prisoners to torture for entertainment. They recorded everything they did and sent the recordings to other colonies as warnings. Park So Young activated another set of holographic displays. These showed the human fleet moving through space like a pack of hunting wolves. The ships were sleek and deadly, moving in formations that spoke of years of training and preparation. Hundreds of vessels, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen before. We gave the Corvans one final chance, Park. So Young announced, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. We sent them a simple message through diplomatic channels. Release your prisoners, withdraw to your home system, and we will discuss terms for peace. Their response came 12 hours later. The display showed a video message from the Corvan war leader, Grakthar. His skull mask was decorated with fresh blood, and his eyes burned with madness behind the bone. He spoke in the harsh, guttural language of his people, but the translation appeared for all to see. Weak humans, he had said, laughing. Your mercy disgusts us. Your peace is the peace of cowards. We will show you what real strength looks like. We will paint our ships with your blood and make masks from your bones. As if his words were not enough, Grakthar had ordered the execution of 1,000 prisoners while the message was being recorded. The screams of the dying could be heard in the background as he spoke. The video ended with him holding up a necklace made from the fingers of children from different species. The human delegates in the chamber did not flinch or look away. They watched the entire horrible recording with expressions of stone. But their eyes burned with a cold fire that made the alien delegates uncomfortable. This was not the reaction of peaceful diplomats. This was the reaction of predators who had found their prey. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stepped forward in the holographic display. The Corvan Empire believes that fear is the ultimate weapon. He said, his voice like the rumble of distant thunder. They think that by being more brutal than anyone else, they can make the galaxy bow down to them. They are about to learn that humans invented fear. The display showed human military history battles fought on their homeworld thousands of years before they ever reached the stars. Wars that had shaped them into what they were today. Images of ancient warriors and modern soldiers, all sharing the same determined expression, the same willingness to face death to protect the innocent. We have studied warfare for 10,000 years. Kim Tae-ho continued. Not because we love it, but because we understand that sometimes evil can only be stopped by superior force applied with surgical precision. We learned long ago that the only thing worse than being prepared for war is being unprepared for it, when evil comes knocking at your door. The holographic map showed the positions of human fleets around Corvin space. They had been moving into position for weeks using stealth technology that made their ships invisible to Corvin sensors. The trap was already set, the net was already closing, but the Corvins did not know it yet. Colonel Bei Sun He appeared in the display. Next, her intelligence uniform was dark blue with silver insignia that marked her as one of the most elite officers in human service. "We have been monitoring Corvin communications for the past month," she reported. "They are planning something they call the Great Cleansing. They intend to destroy 50 more colonies in the next 30 days just to prove that no one can stop them." The revelation sent another wave of shock through the council chamber. 50 colonies meant hundreds of millions of innocent lives. The Corvins were not just conquering territory, they were committing genocide on a scale that the galaxy had never seen before. "We know the locations of their fleet bases." Colonel Bei continued. "We know their patrol routes, their supply convoys, their command codes. We have infiltrated their communications networks, and we are listening to every order they give. We have been preparing for this operation for 5 years, and we are ready." "Li Wu." Jin stepped forward again, his calm voice cutting through the tension in the chamber like a blade. "The Corvin Empire wanted to teach the galaxy about fear," he said slowly. "They wanted to show everyone what happens when you refuse to bow down to bullies and murderers. They are about to get a lesson in fear that they will never forget. The human fleet is now in position around all major Corvin installations," Li Wu Jin continued. "We are not asking for permission from this council. We are informing you of our intentions. The Corvin Empire will cease to exist as a threat to innocent life within 72 hours. Any species that wishes to join us in this righteous cause will be welcomed as allies. Any species that chooses to remain neutral will be respected and protected. Any species that aids the Corvins in any way will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." The chamber erupted into chaos as delegates began shouting questions and demands. Some wanted to know why humans had not asked for permission. First, others wanted to know what would happen to Corvin civilians who were not part of the military machine. Still others demanded to know what humans intended to do with their military power. Once the Corvin threat was eliminated, Li Wu Jin raised his hand and the chamber fell silent again. "We will do what we have always done," he said simply. "We will heal the wounded, feed the hungry, teach the young, and protect the innocent. The only difference is that now everyone knows we have the power to back up our words with action." The Galaxy Council chamber exploded into chaos like a star-going supernova. Delegates jumped to their feet shouting in dozens of different languages. Some were cheering, others were demanding explanations, and many were frantically sending messages back to their home governments. The sound was deafening as hundreds of voices tried to speak at once. Through all the noise, one voice cut through clear and strong. Ambassador Veltar of the Altari Republic stood tall, his blue metallic skin gleaming. Under the chamber lights, his people had always been proud warriors who respected strength above all else. "The Altari Republic pledges its full military support to humanity's cause," he declared, his voice carrying the authority of his entire species. The announcement sent another shockwave through the chamber. The Altari were known throughout the galaxy as fierce fighters with advanced weapons technology. Their support meant that the human coalition suddenly had access to energy weapons that could slice through the hull of any ship in existence. Within minutes, other species began standing up to pledge their support. The crystal-based Luminari offered their quantum computing technology to help coordinate the massive military operation. Their leader Zaralin spoke in harmonious tones that sounded like music. "We have lost too many colonies to Corvin brutality," she said, her crystalline form shifting colors with each word. "Our advanced sensors will help locate every hidden Corvin base in the galaxy." The four-armed Takari Engineering Guild stood next their mechanical augmentations, whirring as they moved. Ambassador Kliktar spoke through his translator device. Our construction fleets will support human logistics operations, he announced. We will build whatever supply stations, fuel depots, and repair facilities the coalition needs to sustain this campaign. Even the normally isolationist Zephyrians agreed to join the alliance. Their representative was a cloud of gas that spoke through, electromagnetic pulses translated into words. We offer our phase shift technology, she said. Our ships can move through solid matter, making us ideal for infiltration and sabotage missions against Corvin installations. But not every species was happy. With humanity's revelation, the hegemony of Kresh had been longtime rivals of humans in diplomatic circles, always competing to see who could gain more influence in the galaxy. Ambassador Mordak slammed his massive rocky fist on his delegation table with enough force to crack the reinforced surface. How long have you been lying to us? He roared, his red eyes blazing with fury. How long have you been sitting in these chambers pretending to be weak pacifists while building the most powerful military force in galactic history? You have made fools of us all. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Several other delegates nodded in agreement. The Nexari consortium had always been suspicious of human motives, and now they felt vindicated. Their insectoid representative clicked his mandibles in what sounded like angry laughter. We always knew there was something different about humans, he said, his compound eyes reflecting the light like tiny mirrors. No species spreads across the galaxy as quickly as you did without having serious military capabilities. Lieutenant Colonel Yoon Ji-hai appeared in the holographic display, her combat armor gleaming with the insignia of human special forces. She had been listening to the accusations, and her response was sharp and clear. We never lied to anyone. She said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had faced death many times. We were exactly what we appeared to be, peaceful beings who preferred diplomacy to warfare. The difference is that we were also prepared for what we hoped would never happen. Yoon Ji-hai continued. A tiger that chooses not to use its claws is not weak. Ambassador Mordak. It is civilized, but when faced with rabid wolves that are killing innocent cubs, even the most civilized tiger must show its true nature. The debate raged for hours. Some species worried that once the Corvin threat was eliminated, humans might turn their weapons on former friends and allies. The hegemony of Kresh demanded guarantees that human military forces would be reduced after the war. Others questioned whether humanity had the moral authority to make life and death decisions for the entire galaxy. Dr. Bae Sun-hee, human chief xenobiologist, stood to address these concerns. Her research had taken her to dozens of worlds studying different forms of life. She had seen the beauty and diversity of galactic civilization, and she had also seen what the Corvins were doing to destroy it. The holographic displays behind her showed the results of her 5-year study of Corvin expansion patterns. The data was horrifying and undeniable. The Corvins were not just building an empire, she explained grimly. They are systematically exterminating entire species. Every world they conquer becomes completely empty of non-Corvin life within 2 years. The evidence was overwhelming. Dozens of species that had existed for millions of years were now nothing but names in historical records. The Corvins did not want slaves or tribute or territory. They wanted the galaxy to belong only to them, and they were willing to commit genocide on an unimaginable scale to make it happen, if we do not stop them now. Dr. Bae continued, there may be no one left to stop them later. Our projections show that at their current rate of expansion they will control half the galaxy within 10 years. At that point, they will be too strong for any coalition to defeat. The chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. This was not a political dispute or a trade war. This was a fight for the survival of galactic civilization itself. Every species in the chamber suddenly realized that they were all potential victims of Corvin expansion. Ambassador Thys, the Reptilian Council leader, spoke. For the first time since the session began, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. The evidence is clear. He said, his voice heavy with the weight of making a decision that would affect trillions of lives. The Corvin Empire represents an existential threat to all civilized life in the galaxy. One by one, the remaining neutral species began to pledge their support. The Void. Walkers offered their knowledge of hidden jump routes through dark space. The collective swarm promised to use their vast networks to gather intelligence on Corvan movements. Even the enigmatic builders who rarely involved themselves in galactic politics agreed to provide advanced construction technology. The final vote was not even close. 87 species voted to support the human-led coalition against the Corvan Empire. 12 abstained, mostly smaller species that were too far away to be immediately threatened. Only 3 voted against all of them, client species of the hegemony of Kresh, who felt obligated to follow their patron's lead. The message was clear. The galaxy was tired of living in fear of the Corvan Empire. They were ready to follow humanity into what might be the bloodiest war in galactic history. Because sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to fight for it. As the voting concluded, Li Wujin stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the growing coalition fleet ships from dozens of species were joining the human armada, creating the largest military force in recorded history. To those species who have chosen to stand with us, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. We thank you for your courage. To those who have chosen to remain neutral, we respect your decision and will protect your neutrality. To the 3 species who voted against this action, we hope you will reconsider before it is too late. The time for debate is over, Li Wujin continued. The Corvan Empire will learn that the galaxy is not defenseless, that there are those willing to stand up to bullies and murderers, that evil actions have consequences. The human delegate paused and looked around the chamber one final time. Tomorrow we begin the largest military operation in galactic history, he announced, not because we love war, but because we love peace so much that we are willing to fight to preserve it. Ambassador Li Wujin stood at the center of the Galaxy Council chamber like a general, preparing his troops for the final battle. The massive space around him had become quiet again, as every delegate focused on his words. The weight of 300 years of human patience finally reaching its breaking point could be felt in the air like electricity before a thunderstorm. Fellow beings of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who spoke for an entire species. We stand at a crossroads in galactic history. Behind us lies 3 centuries of peace and cooperation, of growth and learning, of building something beautiful together. Ahead of us lies a choice that will define what kind of galaxy our children and grandchildren will inherit. The holographic displays around him shifted to show the full extent of human military preparation. The images were breathtaking and terrifying at the same time. Battle stations that had been disguised as scientific research facilities for decades suddenly revealed their true nature. Weapons manufacturing plants hidden inside asteroid mining operations showed production lines creating instruments of war training facilities built on uninhabited moons throughout human space displayed, soldiers preparing for combat in conditions that would kill most other species. The humans trained in crushing gravity, that would flatten bones in radiation levels, that would cook flesh in temperatures that would boil blood. They had been preparing for this war while hoping it would never come. General Park Dong-won appeared in the central holographic display, his weathered face showing the strain of carrying the burden of preparing for galactic war. His uniform was simple and practical, designed for function rather than ceremony, but the medals on his chest told the story of a lifetime spent defending innocent life. The human military has been preparing for this possibility since we first encountered hostile alien life, the general explained. Slowly, we hoped we would never need to use these capabilities. We prayed that reason and diplomacy would prevail in all conflicts, but we also remembered the lessons learned from our own planetary history. Evil exists in the universe, General Park continued, his voice growing stronger. Evil that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be negotiated with, cannot be bargained with. Evil that understands only one language, the language of superior force applied with precision and determination. The Corvan Empire has shown us what that evil looks like when it spreads beyond a single world. The displays showed Corvan atrocities from across the galaxy, entire species wiped out for entertainment, colonies destroyed just to send messages, children tortured to break the spirits of their parents. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The Corvans were not conquerors or even traditional enemies. They were a cancer that would destroy everything good in the galaxy if allowed to spread. Admiral Kim Taeho joined the display, his face set in grim determination. The human fleet is fully mobilized and in position around all major Corvin installations, he reported. Our intelligence networks have identified every military base, every supply depot, every command center in Corvin space. We know their fleet positions, their patrol schedules, their communication codes. Captain Han Min-soo appeared next, his Special Forces uniform marking him as one of the elite warriors who would lead the most dangerous missions. My teams have been infiltrating Corvin territory for months, he said calmly. We have sabotaged their early warning systems, disabled their long-range communications, and eliminated key personnel in their command structure. They think they are safe behind their defenses. They are wrong. The precision and thoroughness of human preparation amazed even their new allies. The Altari had always considered themselves master strategists, but the human planning made their own military operations look simple by comparison. Every detail had been considered, every contingency planned for. The humans had been preparing for total war while maintaining the facade of peaceful diplomats. Dr. Song Haye-jin appeared in the display, her medical uniform, a stark reminder of what humans were fighting to protect. We have prepared field hospitals and medical stations throughout the operational area, she reported. Our combat medics are trained to treat wounded beings from every species in the coalition. We will save every life we can, even as we take the lives of those who threaten the innocent. The moral complexity of the situation was not lost on anyone. The same humans who had spent centuries healing the sick and teaching peace were now preparing to unleash destruction on a scale never before seen in galactic history. But their motivation was clear and pure. They were not fighting for conquest or revenge. They were fighting for the right of innocent beings to live without fear. Commander Choi Hyun-woo displayed the final battle plans. The operation will begin simultaneously across 17 star systems, he explained. We will strike every major Corvin installation at exactly the same moment, giving them no time to coordinate a response or call for reinforcements. Our goal is not just military victory, but the complete elimination of the Corvin Empire as a threat to galactic civilization. The scope of the operation was staggering. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, millions of personnel supporting the largest military campaign in recorded history. But it was not just about size. It was about precision and purpose. Every target had been carefully selected, every mission planned to minimize civilian casualties, while maximizing military effectiveness. Li Wu-jin stepped forward again as the military displays faded. His expression was solemn but determined, like a judge about to pronounce sentence on a convicted criminal. To the Corvin Empire, if you are monitoring our communications, know this, he said, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. You awakened something in humanity that we had hoped to keep sleeping forever. You reminded us why our ancestors looked up at the stars and wondered what monsters might be lurking in the darkness. You showed us why those same ancestors built weapons to fight those monsters. You thought you could terrorize the galaxy into submission. You were wrong. The human delegate paused, letting his words sink in. Throughout the chamber, the silence was complete, as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. We go now to prepare for war. Li Wu-jin continued. Not because we love battle, but because we love peace so much that we are willing to fight for it. We will use every weapon at our disposal, every advantage we have gained through centuries of preparation. We will show the Corvin Empire what happens when evil pushes civilization too far. The Corvin Empire wanted to teach the galaxy about fear. His voice grew stronger with each word. Consider this their final lesson. They will learn that there are worse things in the universe than their skull-faced warriors. They will discover that the quiet species who brought medicine and art to the stars also brought something else: justice. As Li Wu-jin prepared to leave the chamber, he turned back one final time to address the assembled delegates. The age of human diplomacy is ending, he announced. The age of human warfare is about to begin. The Corvin Empire chose this path when they decided that innocent life meant nothing to them. Now they will face the consequences of that choice. The chamber remained silent as the human delegation departed, Every alien present understood that they had just witnessed a turning point in galactic history. The peaceful humans who had spent 3 centuries building bridges between species were about to unleash the most devastating military campaign ever conceived. The sleeping giant had been awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again. In 72 hours, the Corvan Empire would learn what it meant to face humanity at war. The lesson would be brief, brutal, and final. No quarter would be asked, and none would be. Given the time for mercy had passed, the time for justice had come. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the storm to begin.